Thank you so much. By way of additional points, just by way of refresher, we talked about the importance of marketing based on psychology, based on how humans think, operate, and build relationships, because that helps you avoid falling into different marketing fads like 10 ways to beat Google, for example, things that will very quickly run their course. We also talked about how crafting an actual marketing strategy is not just a marketing department function. Everything that your clients or potential clients engage with around your brand is marketing. So we talked about whether an online business should create a storefront or vice versa. We talked about what should your pricing be. We talked about what do your customer care people say on the phone when a potential customer calls in. All of that is marketing. Finally, we talked about the importance of frequency and that words matter when we're engaging with people that we want to develop a relationship with, whether that's in our personal lives or in our professional lives. And we must have enough frequency to remain top of mind. So my friends, today we are going to be talking about marketing when times are lean. Anyone kind of feeling the pinch right now? Anyone a little worried about how much worse the pinch is going to get? That's exactly what we're talking about today. So if you rewind about 24 years or so, I found myself in the deep end of a swimming pool, flailing, trying to get to the surface, and I was just absolutely panicked. What's interesting is I was pushed in, but I knew how to swim. But I still found myself flailing. See, swimming for me would have been effectively using the resources at my disposal, swimming, to try to get to the surface. But because I was in such a panicked state, I was sinking lower and lower and lower. Don't worry, I survived. But even as adults, we find ourselves doing that too. Think of, for example, the stock market. Anyone who invests in the stock market has probably heard the rule of thumb, right? Buy low, sell high. However, what happens when those of us who own stocks find that the economy is tanking, the stock market is going down? The thought process is, okay, I need to sell right now before it gets any lower. And we end up selling at a loss. Or on the flip side, we get super excited when we see the stock market taking off and we're like, we want to get in while the getting's good. And we end up buying high. See, when we allow panic of our current situations to cloud our judgment, it can lead to very bad outcomes. By the same token, when we're in a time of panic or economic tightness for our businesses, we can do the efficient thing or we can act out of panic. And having worked with many, many business owners, the default is always panic. It's what can I do? And in this context, how much cash can I keep in reserves? What can I cut out? And for me, this is personal. Many years ago, I started a business that ultimately I had to close the doors because of just this thing. I decided, you know what? I need to play small amidst an unsure economic future and ended up needing to close the doors. And so I then spent the next significant period of time trying to figure out, okay, I should probably figure out as I consult with other business owners in this sphere, what they need to be focusing on to, instead of just cutting everything, panicking, how can we use the resources that we have most efficiently so that we can stay afloat? Because if our response is panic, we're going to cut, watch this. We fear the economy, the future of our business. So what's the natural response? We cut the marketing budget. What's the implication of that? You have lower revenue. So you reduce the marketing budget. So you have lower revenue. And it ends up being an endless death spiral until the company goes out of business. Or if it's not all that long of time of turbulence, maybe you'll make it through. But here's the other challenge. Marketing, building a relationship with people, is all about momentum. So whatever marketing you're doing right now, you are building momentum, relationship equity with your clients and potential clients. And if you bring that to a screeching halt, you're going to have to, just like pushing a car, restart from the get-go once you make it through, if you make it through. So what we're going to talk about today is how, instead of cutting out all of your marketing to try to preserve your company, which is of vital importance, what are some ways that you can instead use your marketing budget more efficiently to help you not only weather the economic storm we're in, but also excel into the future? That's our plan today. So we're going to start with, there we go. I told you we'd get more into data this time. So what was really interesting to me as I began my research into how to efficiently use marketing is, so often when I connect with business owners, I ask the question, what kind of marketing are you doing? And they proceed to list out a whole rap sheet. Oh, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, we're on Pinterest. Also, we do maybe some TV, a little bit of radio, some print ads, some banner ads, Google ads, etc. That's a lot, especially for small business owners. It's like, how do you manage all of that? How do you do that effectively? Also, that's probably a lot of money, or at least a significant amount of time. Any business owners out there want more time in their schedule? Have things that you could be doing if you didn't have to spend a whole bunch of time managing a bajillion different marketing channels? So what the researchers, Les Binet and Peter Fields, who their focus as market researchers is on marketing effectiveness. I did not create this graph, but what they found after researching tens of thousands of businesses is this. So this line, I'll start with the x-axis. So x-axis, media effectiveness. We'll define that as how much are you spending on marketing versus how much revenue are you getting back from it. So in the ideal situation, you want to spend the least amount possible and get the most return. That's marketing effectiveness or media effectiveness. Then on the y-axis, you have the media spend. So how much are you investing in a given type of marketing, whether that's TV, whether that's radio, whether that's fill in the blank. What they found was quite fascinating. Before this, I kind of would have assumed that it would be kind of a diagonal straight line where the more that you invest, the more outcome you get, and it's probably in a similar proportion. But what they found was, with every form of marketing, there's a threshold point, and that's this little dot toward the bottom. Once you getting to that threshold point, you are investing a significant amount into that marketing channel, and you're frankly not seeing much from it. But once you invest beyond that threshold point, all of a sudden, the ROI starts taking off and you get a disproportionate amount of revenue off of the dollars that you're investing in that media. It's fascinating. Additionally, what they found was there is, with every media channel, a point of diminishing return. So, as you invest heavily into a specific type of marketing, there comes a point where it doesn't make much sense to invest much beyond what you're doing right now. You're just not going to get the value that you would if you, for example, started marketing in a different channel. So what is fascinating about this, and kind of bringing this home, a lot of small businesses or medium-sized businesses assume I have to be everywhere. Wherever the customer is, that's where I need to be. The problem is you're not going to be able to invest enough budget in all of those channels to be able to get beyond that threshold point where you actually begin experiencing the ROI that you're investing. So I am giving you permission to, as you go back to the office this afternoon, map out, and we'll get more into this shortly, map out all of the different means by which you are marketing and begin just cutting them out. I'm not saying per se haphazardly, but I'm saying it is far, far better to focus on fewer channels and do them really well than to focus on all of the channels but only go an inch deep. You will get significantly more bang for your buck. And for the larger business owners out there, it's important to recognize with the point of diminishing returns, it may be time to diversify into other forms of marketing, but only as you approach that point or that point of diminishing returns. And we'll have a time for Q&A afterwards. So if you have any questions on this or anything else we talk about, you can write them down now and we'll make sure that we get to them. So it may be more efficient to do fewer marketing channels than more. Another interesting thing, we talked about brand building versus sales activation last month. By way of recap, at any given point, it's fairly safe to assume that around 5% of potential customers for your business are in market right now. The other 95% will eventually be, but they're not in a buying mode now. So often the business owners we talk to are so focused on digital, which is frankly a great mechanism to capture those 5%, albeit expensive, which we'll get into. But they kind of ignore building the relationship on the front end. So this was really fascinating to me. So what you'll see, again, on the x-axis, you have sales uplift over base. Base means whatever your revenue is right now, okay? Then the y-axis is progression over time. So what's interesting about this, if you look at the yellow line, and I know it's a little bit faded, but the yellow line is sales activation. Think whether that's running a promotion. Hey, come in this Mother's Day because we have 50% off everything. Or whether that's Google Ads, whether that's pay-per-click. All of those would be considered sales activation, is trying to capture the sale right now. So as you'll see, when you do sales activation, it creates a spike that eventually loses steam. But what you'll find with the greenish line is the effects of brand building. That's what we talked about last month. And if you're interested, I can send you the recording for the conversation last month. But with brand building, you'll notice you really don't see much lift from where your revenue is at right now until around the 6-month mark. But it's compounding interest. So point number 2 for today is know what you are investing in. Just like going back to a personal financial investment, if you invest money into your savings account, it's readily accessible, you'll get negligible return, but is there a difference between that, investing in stocks, or investing in like a 15-year treasury note? Yes. There's a difference both in the expected investment both in the duration of time in which you could or should pull it out, but also in the expected return on your investment for all 3 of those. By the same token, if you are investing in sales activation type marketing, it's going to have a different time horizon, but it's also going to have a different amount of overall return on investment. So my encouragement for you would be consider shifting some of your sales activation budget over toward branding, over toward relationship building with your clients. Because while you will, I'm telling you ahead of time, you will see a drop in revenue from what you were getting out in the short run, if you do relationship or brand building well, it'll begin building like a snowball. So oftentimes, let's go back. I want to talk for a minute about pay-per-click. A lot of companies use pay-per-click. Pay-per-click was wonderful back when Google first rolled it out, and for a couple of pennies, you could get someone who was in the zone to buy right now. At this point, my partners, yes, we sometimes recommend pay-per-click. We actually quite often do, but it has to work for you instead of, frankly, you working for Google. We refer to it affectionately as pay-per-crack because it very much is like a slot machine. right? Just picture this. Okay, if I put $100 into pay-per-click, what am I going to get out? Oh, out of the 10 people that clicked on it, 3 of them just wanted my customer care number, 4 of them converted, and the other one, who knows where they went, probably with a competitor. Okay, well, we got a couple of them. Let's try it again. And it's just very much an addictive cycle, which is part of why so many people swear by it. Again, I'm not against pay-per-click. However, when you have business owners who are repeatedly, paying $800 per click or more, it's like, hold up. There's a time and a place for pay-per-click. Google operates on a bid method where the more people who are trying to get those words, the more expensive it's going to be. Therefore, if you're in a really tight marketplace, it is extra important that you focus on brand building, because you're going to be paying a ridiculously high customer acquisition cost if you're primarily leaning on pay-per-click. Additionally, see, I'm trying to save you guys as much money as possible because there's a lot of really expensive ways to get leads. Next, we're going to talk about targeting. There's nothing per se wrong with targeting. Targeting used to be, hey, I have a list of 60 people who are in the market to buy. They're your ideal client. If you've mapped that out, this is them. That was a great thing when it first came out in some contexts. But here's the thing. With relationship-based marketing, it's so often significantly less expensive than the hyper-targeted or over-targeted list that you'll find. And so while someone will brag about, hey, I have the 60 ideal potential customers for you, it's like, okay, I can use relationship marketing to reach those 60 and 600 other people, including qualified buyers. And all of those 600 people also have people that would be potential customers. And if we're focused on building relationship, whether they're buyers or not, it's like, okay, if someone were to build relationship marketing with me, even if it's something that I'm not particularly interested in right now, like, for example, figuring out retirement home. It's like, okay, I may not be interested right now, but if they build a relationship with me, you better believe I'm going to recommend my parents at least check them out. So we can focus so much on paying top dollar for an over-targeted list when oftentimes with mass market products or services, we'd be much better served by spending less on building relationships with more people than by honing in and crossing our fingers that the few people on the list, which most of those lists are trash, but some of those people on the list are actually going to convert. Again, not saying there's no time and place for it, but we need to be very mindful because, that's frankly what our goal is creating efficiency, right? If there's areas in which we can reduce your marketing spend while increasing your ROI, yes, please. Okay, number 3. Okay, actually gonna ask one of you guys a question. Who can define what a marketing or a sales funnel is? Put a bunch of people in and let them spin. Yes, to a point. The goal being that they get further and further down the funnel. So, by way of visual example, when we look at any human being on the face of the earth that could potentially be one of your customers, at the top of the funnel is attention. Your goal is to get potential customers, like connect with them, help them realize that you exist, right? If they don't know you exist, they're probably not going to buy from you. I think we all could assume that, but there are a bajillion ways of doing this. Like we've listed off some, whether it's TV, whether it's radio, whether it's billboards. There's, even in the digital world, there's a lot of ways to help people know that you exist. So then the next thing that the customer is going to be going through in this funnel is interest. Okay, why should I care? What are you going to offer me? What are you going to do that's going to be worth me engaging with you? Oftentimes, this is where customers will begin doing research. as they move into the decision phase. Okay, I acknowledge that I probably should buy fill in the blank, but there's frankly a lot of other businesses that are also offering blank. So how do I decide? Should I talk with my peers, talk with my family? Should I look up reviews on Yelp or on fill in the blank review site? How am I going to make a decision? Ultimately leading to action. This is where they decide, okay, yes, I'm going to not only buy this product or service, but I am going to buy it from this business owner. Now, each of your marketing campaigns or marketing efforts must be able to tie into this funnel. If it does not tie into this funnel, you should not be wasting your money on it. So often business owners that I have talked to will create a marketing campaign, will post on social media, and if you ask them why, it's like, because it's cool. It's like, okay, maybe that could fall under attention, but so often as we're investing in marketing, it doesn't really tie into what the customer's journey is. Or talking about leaky funnels, let's say you have a social media campaign that you're building out, and it takes them, it's a product page, it's a buy now type of ad, and it directs them to your homepage. Okay? If the ad has done all the work to get them to the bottom of the funnel, but you're taking them to the homepage, you're going to lose their interest if they've already gotten to the point of action. But the opposite is also true. All of our marketing must not only be tied into where the customer or potential customer is going to be within the funnel, but also needs to direct them in the smoothest possible path, reducing friction for them to ultimately do business with you. Otherwise, there's a lot of potential revenue that we're just straight up missing out on. Again, we're all about creating efficiency, and so often businesses are losing significant revenue just because, for example, their website's not all that optimized for a customer journey. Now, what you see up here is more like a funnel, right? In actuality, as you build it out, and I would encourage all of you as you go back to your places of work this afternoon, map it out. Create a funnel like this, and then create a lot of bubbles of, hey, I do this kind of marketing. I'm posting this kind of campaign. I'm doing this here. I'm attending this event here. Map out everything that you're doing and draw a line to which part of the funnel that it connects to. Because one, you may find that there's an entire tier that you're missing, which means for more calculated buyers, if you don't give them the resources to make a decision, they're going to your competitors to get the information to make a decision, and they may as well just buy from them while they're at it. What this will end up looking like, most likely as you do this exercise, is it'll look more like a spider web than it will a funnel. Now, number 4, and our final main point for today. It is imperative that we know what the employees we work with, as well as the vendors that we work with, what is their incentive? Many years ago, I heard a story of a woman who lost her husband. Now, I can't relate to this component of her life, but she loves reptiles. And so in the grieving process of her lost husband, she decided to acquire a baby python. Now, over the course of the next several months, she, in the absence of her husband, developed a really deep connection with this python, and she decided she's going to let it sleep in the bed with her. And it was super cute because it would actually lay its head on the pillow next to her just like her husband did. And it really helped her in the process of grieving. It would, head on the pillow, lengthen its way all the way out, just like her husband would have been laying. And she told her good friend that that was very comforting to her. Around the 6-month mark, paramedics show up at her house. Y'all are laughing, so y'all know what happened. But here's the thing. She was convinced that the goal of the python, as silly as it may seem, was to be there for her, to connect with her. when really it had ulterior motives the whole time. Because what they found doing the autopsy was no, it was not stretching out to be there like a comfort like her husband. It was instead stretching itself out to see as soon as it was going to be able to be big enough to kill her and eat her. That was its incentive. Horribly gruesome, but I think it makes a point. And the reason I bring this up is so often the vendors that we hire to help our business, while they're hired to help our business, their incentives do not align with what we need them to do. Now, this can be any type of vendor, whether that's in the legal world or even, as I mentioned, employees sometimes have incentives outside of what we would like them to do. I'm most familiar with the marketing world, so I'm going to focus on there. I swore up and down, to be completely honest with you, I would never go into marketing because it is an industry filled with slime balls and weasels, just to call it how it is. And so much of that comes down to the incentives that they have to grow their own revenue. Look at it. Does anyone know the primary thing that marketing firms attach their revenue growth to? Your marketing budget. So let's play this out. You are marketing with them. They're not quite getting the return on the investment. They're not getting the revenue numbers that you were hoping for. And so what do? It couldn't be a matter of effective marketing. We're experts at marketing. So we need to just increase the budget and we'll reach more people and all will be well. Question. How do you know whether the reason they're saying to increase your budget is because it's going to line their pocket or because it's going to help your business? Back to the original intro example of flailing. When we are in a state of panic, we tend to flail and potentially even do things that we wouldn't otherwise do. And so our businesses are not the only ones who are potentially struggling. Marketing firms are too. And so if the primary incentive these marketing firms have in any business they're working for is your growth as a business is like tertiary, but they're going to be focused so hard and fast on the one thing that drives revenue for them, which is increasing your budget. Problem, as we enter economic lean times, you don't want to be spending any more of your budget willy-nilly, especially not lining their pocket, than you absolutely have to. But it goes deeper than that. Not only are they known for a whole bunch of hidden fees, but commissions. As we are talking about trimming down the different marketing channels to create efficiency and give you the most bang for your buck with marketing, I would guess that if I asked for a raising of hands how many people were aware of that concept or had seen that study or that graph before, I would guess no one would have known anything remotely to that. Why? Marketing firms gather typically around a 15% commission on every channel that they bring a client to. So if we, for example, as a marketing firm, if a client comes to us and we say, hey, you should really invest in TV. Okay, we bring them to a TV station. We say, hey, we want to buy X amount of slots, X amount of dollars. They will offer us a 15% commission on that. Now, what's to keep them from just going to a bajillion different firms, a bajillion different marketing channels to try to capture as many different commissions as possible? And again, as we are talking about how to maximize your budget, if you're doing a whole bunch of these different channels, how likely are you to pass that threshold point? The entire incentive structure for, frankly, most marketing firms and likely a lot of other type of vendors is at least providing a conflict of interest. More likely, in my opinion, completely unethical, which frankly is why I swore up and down I would never join a marketing firm. And now I'm here with you. So by way of, actually, I want to share a quick story with you. A marketing or a company reached out to us. They're a big company in the Midwest. They said, hey, We, about 6 to 8 months ago, started with a marketing firm. On top of the agency fees and all of that, they recommended we invest about $80,000 per month in pay-per-click. What do you guys think? And we offer this service as basically a look under the hood of your digital marketing, and we give you an assessment on what you should look into. And we put our top digital guy on it, and he's like, yeah, I don't know how you spend more than $40,000. Maybe. Anything beyond that is a complete waste of time. It's past that threshold or past the point of diminishing returns. And so we encourage the business owner to go gain access back to their website, the Google Ads account, which, by the way, always retain administrator access of all of your digital platforms, please. Anyway, that's part of how they mask their impropriety. And they will even say, we need exclusive ownership because it protects our proprietary algorithm. It's theft. That's what typically is going on. So we looked under the hood. We encouraged them to request this access back from the digital marketing company, and they said no. So they took them to court, and the business owner naturally won. And what they found when they looked under the hood was, on top of the agency fees, on top of the upfront research and development fees, they were pocketing $40,000 just straight into their pockets, and then investing $40,000 into the pay-per-click. They were not happy, and they fired them, as one can expect. They then signed on with us. We said no more than $25,000, and they're now 3x where they were 2 years ago or so. It is imperative, and the reason I bring this up is because we're talking about efficiency here. They were losing over $40,000 every month. And while that's fairly big time, that happens just as much on small scale. I was asking my top digital marketing guy, I was like, what % of digital marketing firms are either slime balls and do that kind of illicit activity, or are frankly too ignorant of how to set up a digital marketing system to be able to actually effectively track from campaign to conversion? He's like, a little over 50%. It's sick. So, right? Anyway, the reason I joined this firm is there's only one incentive that business owners care about. And that typically, anyone? ROI and growth. How much is, whether it's an employee or as a firm, how much growth are they getting you? Any incentive other than that is going to open the door for impropriety. The best way to protect yourself is to find people, and this isn't just digital marketing firms, this is a spouse too. If you don't have a spouse who aligns with you on the key things, it's going to inhibit the relationship's ability to go deep. So, by way of, I missed the slide of the Python. I get a little bit too passionate about it because of how many times that I have seen horrible stories of, anyway. So today we've talked about don't stop pushing the car. Don't just cut your marketing budget willy-nilly. As I shared with you, I want you to spend as little on marketing as humanly possible. But if you cut it all out, you will lose all momentum, and it will be incredibly difficult for you to rebuild the progress that you have made. Secondly, we talked about only market in as many places as you can crush it. And we talked about that threshold point. Next, we talked about knowing your investments. Is the marketing that you're investing in, is that working toward a short-term investment of those, capturing those 5% at typically a pretty high cost? Or are you also building toward building long-term relationships that will have compounding interest? Next, we talked about patching the holes in your marketing and sales funnel and how that's all encompassing for your business and how it's of vital importance that you map that out and figure out how every aspect of your marketing budget is playing into that funnel. Finally, we talked about the importance of factoring the incentives of your vendors into the weight you give their advice. If you look at the StrengthsFinder personality assessment, I don't know if y'all are into that. My top one is empathy, which is part of what frustrated the living daylights out of me when I have seen so many business owners taken advantage of. And so if there is any way that I can help whatsoever, please don't hesitate to reach out. It's been a pleasure connecting with you all.